All right, let's talk about a fascinating paradox. We are looking at how the world's absolute largest industrial powerhouse is desperately trying to cure a decades-long aerospace deficit. For years, the People's Liberation Army Air Force has suffered from what defense analysts often call its heart disease. And that is a severe limitation in producing the very heart of an aircraft, the jet engine. So, think about this for a second. To begin our briefing, we really have to ask why a nation that can build advanced fifth-generation stealth airframes like the J-20 has struggled for 40 years to build the complex engines required to actually power them. I mean, it seems totally counterintuitive, right? China is a global manufacturing titan, yet the extreme physics of jet propulsion have historically forced them to rely heavily on outside help. In this explainer, we're covering the jet engine bottleneck, decades of Russian reliance, the tacit knowledge gap, the AECC consolidation strategy, and finally, shifting the Pacific balance. Section 1. The jet engine bottleneck. Okay, so this heart disease we just mentioned, it's essentially a historical thrust deficit, and it has severely compromised true fifth-generation capabilities. To really understand why, we have to look at supercruise. Supercruise is an absolute benchmark for modern stealth platforms, and it requires immense, stable engine thrust. Without a mature, high-thrust domestic engine like the elusive WS-15, China's premier J-20 stealth fighter has had to rely on fuel-guzzling afterburners just to reach supersonic speeds. Now, why does that matter? Well, in a stealth fighter, using afterburners creates massive heat signatures and engine bleed. That severely compromises the aircraft's stealth profile and burns through fuel, which obviously limits its operational range. Section 2. Decades of Russian reliance. Without reliable domestic engines, China's transition to a modern aerospace power required a massive, decades-long reliance on imported technology, specifically from their neighbor to the north. Between 1992 and 2019, Russia delivered nearly 4,000 engines to China. We're talking about power plants for frontline helicopters, strategic airlifters, and advanced fighters like the Su-27, the J-10, and the J-11. For decades, whenever China needed a reliable engine with maximum acceleration, they turned to Russian models like the AL-31F. Now, you might be thinking, wait, China is famous for reverse engineering, so why not just copy the Russian engines? Well, China's traditional playbook of reverse engineering actually hit a brick wall here. Stealing a CAD file or even completely tearing down a physical engine cannot teach an engineer the highly guarded national secrets of metallurgy. Plus, earlier attempts to simply reverse engineer the Russian Su-27 into the unlicensed J-11 created massive geopolitical friction. And even when they had access to the physical hardware, like the American CFM56 they purchased back in the 1980s, duplicating it without the underlying manufacturing know-how proved nearly impossible. Section 3. The tacit knowledge gap. This manufacturing deficit is glaringly obvious when we look at reliability. Take the mean time between overhaul, or MTBO. For the benchmark Russian AL-31 engine, it was 400 hours. In contrast, early clones of China's domestic WS-10 engine essentially destroyed themselves after just 30 hours of use. In fact, during its initial 3 years of testing, the PLA logged nearly 20,000 faults with the WS-10. I mean, a fighter jet is basically useless if it needs an engine replacement after every few flights. So, the crucial question here is, what caused those 20,000 faults? They stemmed from highly specific industrial and metallurgical bottlenecks. Jet engines operate under extreme high core temperatures and immense pressure loads. Early Chinese, first-generation directionally solidified turbine blades simply couldn't handle it. They would overheat, spray, and crack. Manufacturing things like single-crystal superalloy turbine blades or applying thermal barrier coatings requires a level of precision casting that China simply had not mastered yet. Defense analyst David R. Markov highlights what is known as the tacit knowledge gap. And honestly, this is where it gets really fascinating. He points out that Western and Russian engine workers have this unwritten expertise. It's mastered through generations of apprenticeship. As Markov puts it, there's a guy at a Western plant who has been working a machine for 30 years and just knows exactly how to tweak the process to get the perfect outcome. It's truly more art than science. China's aerospace workforce is undeniably brilliant, but many are in their late 20s and early 30s. They simply lack that generational, unspoken, tacit knowledge. Section 4. The AECC consolidation strategy. So, recognizing they couldn't just rely on apprenticeships or wait for generations to pass, Beijing threw massive funding at the problem. Total investment in the ambitious domestic two engines project doubled to roughly 42 billion US dollars, or nearly 300 billion RMB, by the end of 2020. They realized that achieving sovereign skies required unparalleled financial commitment. The execution of that funding is where the real shift happened. In 2016, they created the Aero Engine Corporation of China, or AECC. This centralized their historically fragmented research units. To completely bypass those traditional apprenticeship models we just talked about, they aggressively standardized their data and testing processes. They adopted a small core, large collaboration model. This meant keeping the highest value components in-house while outsourcing the rest to over 350 specialized suppliers, dismantling data silos, and pushing a really deep fusion of military and civilian aviation development. And you know what? This strategic consolidation actually yielded real results. The AEC's efforts produced the WS-10 series, which is now the main workhorse for standard fighters like the J-10, J-11, and J-16. They developed the WS-20 to replace the Russian D-30 KP-2 for their heavy Y-20 transports. And most importantly, it laid the foundation to push toward the highly elusive WS-15 for fifth-generation stealth. But getting an 18-ton thrust engine capable of true stealth supercruise has been a slow, decades-long grind. Preliminary steps began way back in 1990. They actually had to use interim engines on the J-20 for years. It wasn't until around 2023 that the WS-15 reportedly achieved full operational capability readiness and began flying on J-20 prototypes, finally overcoming those early metallurgical failures with the overheating blades. Section 5. Shifting the Pacific Balance. Here is why all of this is absolutely critical right now. Experts note that up to 40% of China's fighter fleet could be reliant on Russian components. With Russia's war in Ukraine stretching its own supply chains and Western sanctions limiting Russia's access to materials, China faces intense operational risk. For example, China still relies heavily on Russian-supplied legacy airframes, like the Su-30 Mk2, for critical maritime strike and bomber escort missions over contested areas like Hwangyan Island. If Moscow can't supply spare parts to service these imports, the PLA Air Force and Navy's readiness takes a massive hit. This creates a really high-stakes incentive for China to rapidly scale its domestic manufacturing. Consequently, Beijing is forcing a rapid transition. China has actively phased out Russian engine purchases since 2016. Today, it's J-15 carrier fighters, which face incredibly challenging maritime combat environments, and its Y-20 transport fleets have fully transitioned to domestic WS-10 and WS-20 propulsion. They are systematically pushing out the Russian legacy hardware. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought from our explainer today. As China finally bridges that tacit knowledge gap, masters the incredibly complex metallurgy of single crystal blades, and scales its domestic engine production to evade global supply chain disruptions, how will a truly operationally independent PLA reshape the military power balance in the future Pacific? It's a question that defense policymakers worldwide are currently scrambling to answer. Thank you so much for joining me for this briefing, and keep questioning the mechanics behind the headlines.